Hi, my name is Ritvik Sai Sivakumar, and today I'll be presenting our group's data science project on the topic of obesity and fast food. So, why do we care about obesity? Obesity affects a lot of people in the United States, and the rates of obesity are just increasing and increasing. As of 2018, 42.5% of adults were obese, and 73.6% were counted as overweight or obese. This even affects children, with 20% of children from the ages of 6 to 19 being counted as obese as well, according to the CDC. There are 2.8 million deaths worldwide due to obesity, and this can be related to complications such as diabetes, stroke, and cancer. And there have been studies which show the consumption of fast foods such as pizza, fried foods, and hot dogs are associated with the risk of weight gain and obesity. So our hypothesis is that a higher volume of fast food restaurants will also have a higher rate of obesity compared to areas with lower volumes of fast food restaurants. So our hypothesis basically is if there are more fast food restaurants in an area, we will also see a higher rate of obesity in the same area. There is no causation being implied here, just a correlation of higher and higher. So before we jump into the analysis part, let's just go over some ethics and privacy. So there's three sets of data sets we use: medical data and population fast food data. Concerning the medical data, it's CDC public data out for the public to use. There's no identifiable information since this would be counted as medical data. But one drawback of this data is that it is a telephone survey. So it is it is user reported surveys, and they may not be accurate. Although this data is used by many government agencies to get an idea of their constituents and their health. The population fast food data is user updated, so it may not be accurate and it may not be updated currently on the spot. Also, we may not have permission to use, as fast food restaurants may not like them being associated with higher rates of obesity. So setup and cleaning was just real quick. We just took the top 5 and bottom 5 states in regards to the number of fast food restaurants in them. And we are focusing on the 3 different variables: obesity rate, population, and number of fast food restaurants for each of these states. So looking directly at a map of the obesity rates for each state, we can see that the darker colors mean there's a higher obesity rate, and the lighter colors mean there's a lower obesity rate. And looking at just the pure numbers of fast food restaurants in each state, we can see that there's 3 states that particularly stand out: California, Texas, and Florida. These states also have a very high population and a lot of cities in them, which could also be a reason why. So we normalize this with the population data we have, and we get more of a detailed graph like this one. And it's hard to compare these 3 data just visually, just comparing each state or overall in each area. So we can just use regression to see how this works out. And the first regression we did was purely just obesity versus the number of fast food restaurants for each state. And we can see that a lot of the data points are a little bit more to the left, and we have a negative relationship here. It is also very close to the null hypothesis, the horizontal line. So that is something to keep in mind, and I'll discuss a little later. And once we normalize it, we see the normalized data. The data is a little bit more spread out, and we do see a little bit more of a positive relationship here. But this is probably even closer to the null hypothesis. And we will see in the next slide, the p-value shows that. So in the first graph we saw, we have a p-value of 0.189. This is fairly high compared to the 0.05 p-value that we usually aim for. And it's even worse when we look at the obesity and number of restaurants per capita at 0.472. And basically what this p-value means is how likely it is that the data and the correlation we saw was out of pure chance rather than there being a pure correlation. And these are pretty high chances that this data we saw was just out of pure chance. And therefore, we would have to see that there is no positive correlation between obesity rate and number of fast food restaurants in the United States. So our hypothesis is wrong, and we failed to reject the null hypothesis. So there is no positive correlation between obesity rate and number of fast food restaurants. Thank you.